Good morning. Welcome to join our cultural event today. I'm Dr. Catherine Chang, today's moderator, and I teach world history and East Asian history at Winthrop. Today's event is titled The Chinese Communist Party's 20th National Congress and the Chinese President Xi Jinping's Road to Power. This event is sponsored by the departments and the programs of History, Political Science, International and Global Studies, Peace, Justice, and Conflict Resolution Studies, and the John C. West Forum on Politics and Policy. Director Catalina Moyong of West Forum is also with us here. Because this is a cultural event, participants, please turn on your camera and show your faces all the time to earn the credit. In addition, we will have a Q&A session. Click the bottom of the screen and you will find the chat room. Please input your questions there. Many people might have this question. Why does China matter to us in the US when everyone is concerned about the war in Ukraine today? We are living in a multipolar world, and the major players or actors in the world include the US, China, Russia, Japan, and Europe, and many other countries. And China is the second largest economic power in the world since 2010, with a 1.4 billion population. Recently, many experts are analyzing what will be China's next move in the Western Pacific after seeing how the world helps Ukraine to resist Russia. In addition, due to the pandemic, China had lockdowns from time to time. Today, Shanghai, a mega city of 25 million population, is also locked down. Therefore, the global supply chain has been constantly disrupted and global inflation continues. This is why China matters to the global future and to our American economy. Our speaker is Dr. Jerome Fuzhong Li. He's giving us this webinar from Taiwan, the other side of the earth, 12 hours ahead. So this is almost midnight for him. Dr. Li is an associate professor in the Graduate Institute of Taiwan History at National Zhengzhi University in Taiwan. Before entering academia, Dr. Li was a journalist for about 10 years, reporting and writing columns on Chinese politics. He received his PhD in history from the Taiwan University with his dissertation on the Chinese Communist Party's policies toward the private enterprises from 1949 to 1956. His current research covers Chinese history in the 20th and 21st centuries and the political and diplomatic history of Taiwan after World War II. Dr. Li has published many books and articles. One recent book is The Centennial Revolution of China, History of the People's Republic of China. Here, I'm giving the time and floor to Dr. Li. Dr. Li, please.
And maybe we could have a flashback about what indeed China happened before the reform and the opening policy. So then we need to jump into the era by Chairman Mao. So here we see the portrait of Chairman Mao. Obviously, this is a portrait during the Cultural Revolution, and I'm not quite sure whether you can read Chinese character or not. But under this portrait, there are 5 Chinese characters. That means Viva Chairman Mao, and Chairman Mao. 10 years before Chairman Mao died in 1976, Mao Zedong launched a mass political campaign named Cultural Revolution, which caused serious economic setback, political chaos, and a huge loss of life. So 27 days after Mao's death, Mao's successor Hua Guofeng arrested Mao's widow Jiang Qing and her clique, the Gang of Four. Here, I would like to show you some picture about the Gang of Four. This is Jiang Qing. She used to be the wife of Chairman Mao, but Chairman Mao, however, did not choose her as the successor. And this is the Zhang Chunqiao, the second figure of the Gang of Four. When he was arrested, Zhang Chunqiao, he was the vice prime minister of China. And then the third one is the Wang Hongwen. He used to be the vice chairman of the CCP at the end of the Cultural Revolution. Theoretically, Wang Hongwen, he was the highest ranking member in the Gang of Four. And the last one is Yao Wenyuan. Yao Wenyuan, he was in charge of the propaganda. So maybe you can imagine Yao Wenyuan, he was the Joseph Goebbels in the Gang of Four. Okay, so after Mao Zedong died, and then Hua Guofeng arrested the Gang of Four, and then China it is a watershed to begin the next step of China. So we can see two pictures to show that Hua Guofeng on the left and the Deng Xiaoping on the right. But I know these two pictures are a little bit confusing because these two old gentlemen, they all wear the same style military uniform, and they all have round faces. But let me show you another picture. Yeah, then we can distinguish Hua Guofeng and the Deng Xiaoping very clearly. On the left, who were in black and with a hat, that's Hua Guofeng, and on the right, in his brown coat, that's Deng Xiaoping. Yeah, this obviously these are two very different men. So sorry. Even though Hua Guofeng is the successor of Mao Zedong, but Deng Xiaoping owned the prestige and the political influence all beyond Hua Guofeng can reach. So as Mao's successor, Hua Guofeng, he did not really give any policy to resolve the problem that Mao and the Cultural Revolution left. But Deng Xiaoping, in contrast, Deng Xiaoping proposed an audacious but a persuasive asking to reappraise the soul of Chairman Mao. Deng Xiaoping he said that the soul of Chairman Mao has to be reinterpreted, and Deng Xiaoping tried to reevaluate the Cultural Revolution. So this is a very in 1976, 1978, it's a breakthrough out of the tradition of the politics of the CCP. So finally, Deng Xiaoping disintegrated Hua Guofeng's political alliance in December 1978, and then Deng Xiaoping replaced Hua Guofeng as the figure in charge of the decision making in Beijing. So yeah, this is our flashback about what happened before and after the Cultural Revolution. The new policy that Deng Xiaoping and his supporter carry out to transform the Cultural Revolution is the so-called reform and opening. Okay, because I'm not quite sure that everyone in this forum understand what happened to China before and after the Cultural Revolution. So I believe it's necessary to give an introduction to the history. So here we can summarize the reform and the opening policy simply with two slogans. invented by Deng Xiaoping. The first one is adopting some useful method of capitalism to develop the productivity of China. Okay, this is the first principle. And the second, that some people and some region be rich at first, because after, just as I say, in fact before the Cultural Revolution, especially during the Cultural Revolution, the Chinese economy experienced very disastrous setback. So Deng Xiaoping, he understand that after the Cultural Revolution, the Chinese economy need some huge deployment. So that's why Deng Xiaoping he asked that after the Cultural Revolution, that some people and some region should be rich. Then then China could have the opportunity to become rich. Okay, so even though Deng Xiaoping even though there are something happened in spring 1989 that it was the backfire of the Deng Xiaoping's policy. So which almost buried the achievement of the reform and the opening. But Deng Xiaoping won back the support of some key figure in the Politburo of the CCP, especially the General Secretary Jiang Zemin and the Mayor of Shanghai, Zhu Rongji. So Deng Xiaoping finally, he overcome the counterattack from the fundamentalist standard pattern of the communism inside the CCP after the spring of 1992. Let us have some maybe reminder of what happened in Beijing in June 1989. I believe that maybe you all heard, or you ever heard of, maybe learn some history in your textbook or in your class, that in 1989 there was a democratic movement happen in Beijing. We can see the top left picture, that you can see the Tiananmen Square full of people, full of the young students to demonstrate, to ask the Chinese Communist Party to adopt democratization. So then, but I believe all of you are familiar with the picture bottom right. There is a young person who stand in front of many tanks. So that's why this picture had a nickname, the Tank Man. Maybe this picture become the most iconic image of what happened to Beijing in 1989. But very unfortunately, the Chinese communists suppressed the democratic movement in Beijing. So let me show you this is the picture of Jiang Zemin. In 1989, even though the General Secretary then Zhao Ziyang, he supported the democratic movement, but Deng Xiaoping, he did not allow China will become more democratization. So Deng Xiaoping very quickly repressed Zhao Ziyang with Jiang Zemin. So this is the picture of Jiang Zemin, and then we see another picture to show that when Deng Xiaoping he visited Shanghai in in 1991, then the mayor Zhu Rongji had a meeting with Deng Xiaoping, just as this picture shows. So maybe according to this picture, maybe you cannot really look at very clearly how Zhu Rongji looked like that. So let me have a close-up of Zhu Rongji's picture. Yeah, this is my newspaper clipping, a close-up of Zhu Rongji. I have to say that he is not really a handsome man. He warned that those who try to pursue Taiwan independence will come to no good end at a news conference on March 15, 2000. Okay, that's 22 years ago, just 3 days before Taiwan's presidential election. And then here we have Hu Jintao. Hu Jintao, he was the successor of Jiang Zemin. And according to Deng Xiaoping's reform plan, a CCP's leader, that means General Secretary, can only serve 2 terms. Because Deng Xiaoping, he experienced what happened in Cultural Revolution, and Chairman Mao had the highest power. Nobody can against Chairman Mao. So that's why Deng Xiaoping, he gave his instruction that after the Cultural Revolution, all the leader, all the top, the highest leader of the CCP should have a limited term as the General Secretary. So Jiang Zemin did not break the rule, and he resigned in 2002. And then Hu Jintao succeeded as the CCP's General Secretary. And then Hu Jintao did not break the rule either. And Hu Jintao, he resigned in 2012. Okay. So during Jiang Zemin and Hu Jintao's term as the General Secretary of the CCP, Beijing did not deviate from Deng Xiaoping's design of the reform and the opening basically. But in this 2 decades, I mean, in the Jiang Zemin's era and the Hu Jintao's era, China's GDP grew up from 400 billion US dollars in 1990s to 8.5 trillion US dollar in 2012. So we can have a very simple calculation. China, that's 20 times growth, over 20 times growth. So China overtook Japan in 2010 and became the 2nd biggest economy in the world. So in fact, 10 years passed. So according to all the economists predict, China, in fact, China may have the opportunity. China may have the chance to take over America in maybe 2030 to 2035. So Xi Jinping succeeded Hu Jintao in 2012 as the CCP's General Secretary. Okay. Next page. According to the regulation given by Deng Xiaoping, Xi Jinping should step down from the position of General Secretary at the CCP's 20th National Congress this fall, theoretically, okay? But especially under the situation that both Jiang Zemin and Hu Jintao did not break the rule. But very strange. Until now, we cannot see that there is anyone potential to be the next General Secretary of the CCP. So that's why from maybe 2 years, 3 years ago until now, all the China observer, we are all curious. What happened to Beijing? What happened to Jiang Zemin? Okay. Just 2 weeks after Xi Jinping succeeded as the General Secretary on November 16, 2012, that's 10 years ago, he declared his new prospect for China, the great rejuvenation of Chinese nation. That allow me to speak, to read it in Chinese character. 中华民族伟大复兴. Okay, that's the Chinese sorry, the so-called great rejuvenation of Chinese nation is the English translation of what I read. Okay, so but in fact, Xi Jinping he declared this prospect on a very inconspicuous occasion. So in fact, 10 years ago, not so many people pay attention to what he said. So maybe because Xi Jinping was still a rookie then, so his unremarkable declaration did not cause much attention. And 9 months before Xi Jinping became the highest leader of China, Vice President Joe Biden invited Xi Jinping to visit Washington, D.C. in February 2012. And before Xi Jinping's tour, he told the Washington Post that the Pacific Ocean is big enough to accommodate the United States and China. Okay, this is the picture that Obama had a meeting with Xi Jinping in February 2012. Allow me to remind you that there is a Chinese official. He sat beside Xi Jinping on the right hand. His name is Yang Jiechi. We will talk. I will talk about Yang Jiechi later. So, but I just want to remind you that here is Yang Jiechi, and right now, I mean, 2022, Yang Jiechi, right now, he is the highest ranking diplomat of Chinese government. And we can see on the picture that there is a man on the back row. the Chinese Chinese official on the back row. His name is Wang Yi. Right now, Wang Yi is the foreign minister, the foreign affairs minister of China. Okay, so this picture is quite magnificent. Okay, impressive. So Xi Jinping, okay, then Xi Jinping did not say this. Did not say that the Pacific Ocean is big enough. Blah blah blah. Only once. Xi Jinping, at least as I understand, Xi Jinping at least said that 3 times. He said China would share the Pacific Ocean with America in 2015, when he met with United States Secretary John Kerry, and again in November 2017, when President Donald Trump visited Beijing. So here is the picture that John Kerry shook hands with Xi Jinping, and then the picture that Donald Trump he visited Beijing. And then is my second question: what does Xi Jinping really mean? Is the Pacific Ocean is big enough just a metaphor, or a similar? If it is a metaphor, then you know, maybe just Xi Jinping's imagination or his dream, not really will come true. Okay, but when Xi Jinping said the Pacific Ocean big enough, means that his intention, then I believe that something will become trouble. Okay, because if Xi Jinping really mean it, if Xi Jinping really mean that China would like to share Pacific Ocean with the United States, then there must be something, you know, political and the military policy will then carry out. to realize what he wants. So in order to explore the Pacific Ocean, China had to establish her blue water fleet, especially the aircraft carrier battle group. So China bought a rusting hawk, the Valyag from Ukraine in 1999. Okay, Valyag is just a very old aircraft carrier made in the Soviet Union era. But in 1999, this aircraft carrier became very old and just a bunk of rusting hawk. But China bought this hawk, then rebuild this aircraft carrier. Then in August 2011, 11 years ago, the first Chinese-made aircraft carrier, Liaoning, had its first water test. Here we see the picture of Liaoning, and this aircraft carrier used to be the Valyag, but right now she is the first aircraft carrier of Chinese Navy. And then the second picture shows that the second aircraft carrier of Chinese Navy. Her name is Shandong. If you are familiar with the Chinese geography, you will understand that Liaoning is a province, and the Shandong also a province of China. So carrier Liaoning and Shandong Shandong is the second aircraft carrier of the Chinese Navy, and had its first water test in 2017. That's 5 years ago. According to the Chinese Navy program, there will be three more aircraft carrier to be deployed in military service before 2030. That means 8 years later, we will see that Chinese Navy will have 5 aircraft carrier battle group. So if it comes true in 2030, then China will become the second biggest sea power in the world, only inferior to America. So when China seeks a maritime domain in the South China Sea, that means the risk of conflict between China and the country of Southeast Asia increases. Not only Southeast Asia country, but also the United States, Australia, Japan, and Europe all express their concern about the situation happening in South China Sea. Allow me to show you 2 maps. Let us just look at the left one first. You can see that there are 9 short green lines on this map, on the left map. All this short green line shape a pocket, like a pocket. Okay, they shape a space like a pocket, and almost surrounding all this short green line almost surround the South China Sea. According to Chinese government claim, inside this pocket, that's the territory, the maritime territory of China. Then it will become something troublesome, because let us look at the right map. We can see the blue line. The blue line means that the exclusive economic zone of the different country of the Southeast Asia, including Philippines, Malaysia, Indonesia, Vietnam. And you can see that the Chinese claim her territory, maritime domain, in fact overlap the exclusive economic zone of the Southeast Asia country. So it will absolutely, that will cause some, a lot of argument and the conflict, even military conflict between China and all the country surround the South China Sea. So if you are well informed about the situation in the South China Sea, you will understand that in the past decade, maybe more than one decade, there were a lot of conflict and debate, argument between China and the ASEAN. So the second, the second prominent feature of Xi Jinping's administration is the wolf warrior diplomacy. This is a very weird wording, wolf warrior. Here are some of the Chinese wolf warrior diplomatic spokesmen who are willing to show their discourteous rhetoric without any hesitation. This gentleman, his name is Zhao Lijian, and then this lady, her name is Hua Chunying, and then the third, his name is Wang Wenbin. They are all the incumbent spokesmen of the Chinese Foreign Affairs Ministry. So my recommendation is that maybe you can go to the YouTube and watch how all these spokesmen, spokeswomen, how they perform the behavior of the wolf warrior diplomat. So it's quite interesting because they even, as we understand that the spokesman should be behave so gently, so courteously, but under the very strange diplomatic policy of Xi Jinping, all his diplomatic spokesmen, they behave very fiercely and even very brutally. Yeah, at least that's my opinion. They even can ask the journalist shut up or give some cynicism to the journalists. So it's very quite weird. So under such a new diplomatic strategy, the most dramatic personality transition happened to Yang Jiechi. I just mentioned this man, Yang Jiechi, who used to be a close family friend to President George Bush in 1990s. But right now, Yang Jiechi is the highest ranking diplomat official in Xi Jinping's administration. So Yang Jiechi did not hesitate to express anger and impatience when he met with Secretary of State Antony Blinken last March, just 1 year ago in Anchorage. Yeah, this is the picture to show that 1 year ago when Yang Jiechi had a meeting with Blinken in Alaska. So once again, my recommendation: if you can hear if you can hear Chinese Mandarin, please have a look at the video in YouTube. Before the meeting, before the real negotiation, Yang Jiechi, he gave a 16 minutes, speaking. He gave a 16 minutes speech, and then not in English but in Chinese Mandarin. and what he says very very angry. He speak very angrily. He said that allow me to translate, because Yang Jiechi he spoke in Chinese Mandarin, but allow me to translate into English. Yang Jiechi he said, United States does not have the position by strength to teach China what should do and what should not do, something like that. So if you can hear the Chinese Mandarin, please go to the YouTube and have a look at how Yang Jiechi performed as a wolf warrior. Please remember that Yang Jiechi used to be, just 20 years ago, Yang Jiechi still was a very good friend to President George Bush, but 20 years later, especially when his boss, Yang Jiechi boss, different, then Yang Jiechi performed differently. So that's why I call it the transition of the personality. Okay, so it's not difficult to what to understand. Sorry. To understand why Chinese diplomats have a brand new mentality to the outside world, because China is different. Okay, my opinion, my understanding of Xi Jinping, because Xi Jinping he believed China is different. Then China became stronger, richer. China no longer has to be timid and amiable to the Western world. Okay, so you know, Yang Jiechi, he is not a rookie. He is not a rookie diplomat. Yang Jiechi is a senior diplomat, Chinese diplomat. So Yang Jiechi, he behaved very just like a diplomat. In 1990, and how come in 2020 Yang Jiechi became he looked just dramatically, he became another person. So it's very strange, very strange to me. So in history, such a collective, I believe it's a collective mentality of the nationalism had in fact such a collective mentality had existed in Mao's China. On September 30th, 1949, that's more than 70 years ago, just one day before the establishment of the new People's Republic, Chairman Mao declared publicly that Chinese people have stood up. Chinese will no longer be a nation that always suffered disgrace from others. Yeah, that's what Chairman Mao declared 73 years ago. So such a mentality of nationalism was obviously revealed when China was involved in a conflict with the United States in the Korean War battlefield. So China released a box office. I mean, last year, China released a box office movie named The Battle at Lake Changjin, just at the peak of the trade and the diplomatic disputes between the United States and China, which had originated since 2018. I believe maybe you still have the impression during the president during the era of the President Donald Trump. President Donald Trump had a trade war with China just a couple of years ago. So in the peak at the peak of the trade war with America, Chinese government released this picture, the battle at Lake Changjin. Lake Changjin can be translated as the Chongqing River in English. So where witnessed the first military conflict between China and the United States in the Korean War on November 27, 1950. So it's a symbol, it's a something that Chinese government want to show that we still remember the history, even though in 1990s, in the decade of the double O, China show their friendly gesture to the United States, but that doesn't mean that in 2020, in the decade of 2020, China still have to, to be the same one. So Xi Jinping's China remind people that the ultra nationalism in Mao's China seem to be back. Yeah, a couple of months after the massacre happened in Beijing on June 1989, Deng Xiaoping instructed Jiang Zemin and the other members in the CCP Politburo hide our capacity and bide our time. Okay, it is an old Chinese saying. Allow me to read in Chinese Mandarin. 韬光养晦. Yeah, bide our time. Okay, so Xi Jinping has obviously given up Deng Xiaoping's strategy, and he tried to let out a more aggressive and active gesture in the diplomatic and the regional security policy. So, yeah, this is a very interesting cover story of Time at April 2016. I believe this cover story gave an oracle-like predication to Xi Jinping, even 2 years earlier, before Xi Jinping canceled the limit of the presidential term in Chinese constitution in spring 2018. So is diplomatic policy the only Deng Xiaoping's decision abandoned by Xi Jinping? The answer is no. Xi Jinping also tried to change the political succession rule that set up by Deng Xiaoping. As I mentioned above, Deng Xiaoping indicated that any CCP's general secretary limited to 2 terms at most. But according to this demand, the future successor must be arranged, joined into the standing committee of the Politburo 5 years before he is inaugurated as the general secretary. Okay, according to this pattern, according to this rule, Hu Jintao joined in the standing committee even 10 years before he was inaugurated as the general secretary. And Xi Jinping also, in fact, Xi Jinping he joined into the standing committee of the Politburo in 2007. So that's why 5 years later, 5 years later that Xi Jinping entered into the standing committee, and then Xi Jinping, he was inaugurated as the general secretary. So this is a very clear pattern. But Xi Jinping did not arrange any seemingly potential successor into the standing committee of Politburo in 2017. So that no wonder that all the China observer, they are curious. They are all curious. What happened to Beijing and what will happen? What will happen this autumn? So that's why when the opening of the 20th National Congress kicking, all Chinese observers around the world guessed that Xi Jinping will break Deng Xiaoping's rule and crown himself the 3rd term of the general secretary this fall. So there are still other uneasy phenomena, including what happened to Hong Kong in 2019. I believe all you are well informed about what happened in Hong Kong 2 years ago, 3 years ago. And Xi Jinping has launched a disturbing purge to some significant Chinese private entrepreneur in recent years, like Jack Ma, Tony Ma, and Richard Liu, etc. So why all this development alarming? Allow me to remind you that because Deng Xiaoping, he once promised that Hong Kong may remain unchanged for 50 years. When Deng Xiaoping, he had the negotiation with the UK, in in the decade of 1980, Deng Xiaoping ever promised Hong Kong can remain unchanged for half century. But I believe all you understand that Hong Kong returned to China only a little bit more than 20 years. Then Hong Kong changed. At least the Beijing's policy to Hong Kong changed. And then do not forget, one key issue of Deng Xiaoping's program of reform of the opening is that let some people be rich at first. But we see that right now we see that Xi Jinping began to purge the some private entrepreneur. So what happened? Right now, still ambiguous and still let people curious. So will Xi Jinping change Deng Xiaoping's plan so abruptly after China has learned the useful method that provided by the capitalist world? And most important, where will Xi Jinping lead China to? When Xi Jinping declared that China is preparing for the new era to celebrate her centennial anniversary of the CCP's establishment, allow me to explain that the Chinese Communist Party established in 1921. So last year is the 100-year anniversary of the establishment of the CCP. So what does he mean by the new era? From last year, Xi Jinping he said once again and again that China is entering the new era. So what does he mean by the new era of the socialism with Chinese characteristics? Interesting, but because everything is happening, so at least I don't have any concrete answer to this question. What happened to Xi Jinping and what happened to Beijing? I still have no answer to this question. So we wait for the closing of the CCP's 20th National Congress to see whether Xi Jinping is elected to be the next generation general secretary. Then we will have the more necessary information to analyze what is indeed his plan to realize the great rejuvenation of Chinese nation. So there is still several months, maybe just half a year, 6 months maybe. So we can wait and see to understand what is Xi Jinping's plan, or maybe we will see something more dramatical. Maybe I'm not sure that. I believe nobody can predict what will happen in the next 6 months until the 20th National Congress of CCP open. So just let wait and see. So this is my my speech. Many thanks for your listening. And I leave my time to Catherine, please.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Lee. And I think here we are really concerned about our future. And China, as I mentioned, is a really important international player in politics, in economy. So here I think we have gathered a lot of questions. So please allow me to show you the questions, and we look forward to Dr. Lee's answers here.
Well, the protest in Tiananmen Square in 1989 only about what?
Voting. 投票
voting. About voting, were they more demand made? Oh, not only no, not only voting, but that's 32 years ago. The young student in Beijing, they want the democratization. Just let me have straight to the key issue. The young people, the citizen in Beijing, they want Chinese Communist Party to have the democratic reform, not just economic reform. You know, according to Deng Xiaoping's plan, the reform only, you know, limited to economic affair, but not including political, not including politics. But the 32 years ago, the young student and the citizen of Beijing, they want more. They want a political reform. So that's the difference. But so that's why we finally see the massacre and we see the tragedy, because the old man, the old man in the Chinese Communist Party, they refuse to carry out, to realize the democratization. So not only voting, okay. So okay, allow me to read the second question. How can you be sure of sustained economic growth in China? Sorry, I can see the next.
As it has transitioned to a developed economy.
A transition, okay. Because yeah. Oh, I see. How can you be sure of sustained economic growth in China as it has transitioned to a developed economy, and he's having a large demographic problem, aging population? No.
It's hard. Yeah, I think it is hard.
Okay. Of course, I am not sure that will China still sustain its economic growth in the, you know, in 10 years, in the future 10 years, or maybe, or even 20 years. But according to the, you know, according to what happened in recent year, even after the pandemic, broke out, China, in fact, still maintain a more or less 5% to 6% economic growth every year. So we have to understand that she has been the second biggest economy in the world. So you know, such a big economy, if such a big economy has a 5% to 6% growth every year, then it will be very terrible, very impressive. So in fact, Xi Jinping in the resolution by the Central Committee of the CCP, there was a resolution by the Central Committee of CCP last November, I remember. Then Xi Jinping declared in that resolution that China will no longer pursue economic growth. At least Chinese government will not arrange her policy according to economic growth. So I don't think that the so-called the economic growth so important to Xi Jinping and his government. But even though today China no longer put all its attention to the economic growth, that doesn't mean that China will suffer a economic setback. China still, the economic growth still be a very important policy to this government. So it still pursue more economic growth. So even though the economic growth of China in the future will not so impressive, not so big, but we cannot underestimate. Sorry, my pronunciation. So we cannot underestimate Chinese the strength of Chinese government, the productivity of China. We have to please allow me to say that we have to give our respect to the power of Chinese Communist Party, the strength of Chinese government. Okay, so this is my my answer to the second question. So the third question: are you saying Xi Jinping is now trying to do what Putin did and make himself a permanent dictator by reforming the culture revolution? Sorry, I'm not quite sure what is reforming the culture revolution.
I think this is the original question. So you can say that kind of what? Kind of giving it, I don't know, giving it a new definition. Yeah.
Okay. At least I can answer the first part. The first part of this question. Xi Jinping is Xi Jinping now trying to do what Putin did? It's quite hard to say what Xi Jinping wants to do, because allow me to remind you that please take a picture of Xi Jinping and look at it. Look at him. You cannot see much, you cannot see much information, message. Sorry about my wording. You cannot see many messages from his face. So what does Xi Jinping really intend to do? Nobody knows, and at least I cannot predict. So early, but and I'm not quite sure. Will Xi Jinping try to do what Putin did? For example, will Xi Jinping attack Taiwan? Will Xi Jinping, launch a war to Taiwan? Many people wonder such a question in Taiwan. Let me just get in straight. But my opinion about this question is, Xi Jinping will not attack Taiwan this year, because before the end of this year, before the end of the 2022, Xi Jinping's his most important mission is to inaugurate it as the third term of the General Secretary. So attack Taiwan is a stupid idea. And the next year, I mean 2023, there will be a presidential campaign happen in Taiwan. So as my estimation, my understanding, Xi Jinping will not take the risk to attack Taiwan even next year, because the best choice, the best choice is to get involved, to take hand into the Taiwan's presidential campaign, then to try to try to transform, try to interrupt, try to let the Taiwanese people to vote to someone that China prefer, to vote to China, to some candidate that Xi Jinping prefer. That will be the best best choice of Xi Jinping. I mean, 2023. So 2 years later, I mean, 2024, will Xi Jinping attack Taiwan? It will depend, depend who will be the next president of Taiwan. So, when we talk about politics, we cannot predict more than far from right now. We have to be cautious and just step by step. And I believe that I have my prediction about 2 years later that is enough. So my promise, my prediction that Xi Jinping will not attack Taiwan at least in 2 years. Okay, sorry. The fourth I cannot. Okay, the fourth question: could China's statement, the Pacific Ocean is big enough for China and the United States, be more than just a metaphor or similar? Is this a threatening political military statement to the United States? Well, it depends, up to you. But according to my opinion, I believe President Obama did not see such a statement as a threaten. But after the Donald Trump, I'm not quite sure. Maybe in recent years, I mean, in a couple of years, I believe the White House, the United States government, gradually understand that Xi Jinping, he was not joking. He meant it. Okay, so this is a process. The American government maybe could not understand quite clearly what does that mean, but in recent years, especially after the pandemic, after the pandemic, maybe I believe that the American government understand this such kind of statement more deeply, more clearly. That's my opinion. Okay. Yeah. Is there any question?
Yes. But I'm afraid that we are approaching the time, so we can only have maybe 2 more questions. You can decide which questions you are going to answer.
Okay. Yeah, this if China, sorry. I cannot see. Oh, okay. Should the Western world be concerned with the overwhelmed power China has been gaining over the last 2 to 3 decades? Concern? Of course, I believe that the Western world should be concerned. But such a power, is such a power overwhelming or not? My opinion is yes. The power right now China had Xi Jinping has in hand is overwhelming. Is overwhelming. So please remember one thing. This is such a lesson I learned from the war between I learned from the invasion, a Russian invasion to Ukraine, that the dictator, when a dictator had the supreme power in hand, then the situation will become very, very risky. Okay, become very dangerous. We can see that in this in the war, what happened in between Russia and the Ukraine, because Putin, he had the supreme power in his hand. So when he launched a war at another country, he seems no hesitation. It's very strange, if we are all rational men like me, then when we want to launch a war, we should consider it very seriously. It's a war. War is not a simple thing. But when just 1 month ago, 2 months ago, when Putin launched this war, it seems that he not really have any hesitation. So it's very weird. So that's my opinion, that in the 21st century world, we should be very careful that the dictator, every dictator, especially when this dictator, he has a supreme power in his hand, like Xi Jinping. We have to be very careful, very cautious, because if this dictator, he just lost his mind, then the risk will be very, very, very high. Will be dangerous. He will do damage to all the people around the world. So so that's my answer to this question. Yes, the Western world should be concerned with the power Xi Jinping and China had in hand, especially when Xi Jinping, he began to abandon Deng Xiaoping's instruction, and became more and more like a dictator. Then such a risk, such a risk is that we should be very highly concerned. Okay, this is my answer, and I give my time to Catherine. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. And here we do still have a lot of questions, and
Really?
I think this is a topic a lot of people are very concerned about. But unfortunately, we are running to the end of this webinar, and this is past midnight in Taiwan for Dr. Li. In addition, I think this is a really rare occasion for us to have the voice from East Asia. I think here in the past, we only had speakers from the United States, but generally, I think here, since China is located in East Asia, so it is so important for us to see that how people in East Asia have seen this issue. So I think I hope that you enjoy this webinar. And again, thank you very much for Dr. Li. And I really appreciate everyone's attendance and all the questions. If you still have many questions, you are welcome to contact me. And we are really glad to answer you in the future. All right? Okay, thank you, and have a nice day. Bye.
Thank you, Catherine. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, Catalina. Thank you very much for your help. And I'm sorry that we don't have time to go to your question.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Li. It was really
pleasure. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Bye.